For more. Diabo, good afternoon to you. First of all, just take us through a bit more about what exactly a people-to-people exchange mechanism is all about.
Natasha, well, when you say people-to-people mechanisms, I can imagine that some of our viewers think that you take people from South Africa and you put them in China, and you take people in China and you put them in South Africa. Well, that is just a little part of what it is. Government today, it did host the Vice Premier of the Republic of China, Her Excellency Liu Yangdong. This is an inaugural session, Natasha, where South Africa and China share a high-level, what they call a people-to-people exchange mechanism. It seeks to exchange trust, friendship, and also strategic partnerships between the two countries. You may be already aware that South Africa does have a relationship, a very strong relationship that is with China. We share trade relations as well. In fact, to be precise, more than 300 billion rand trade between the two countries. Of course, you know that China is also the second largest economy in the world. And don't forget that we also share a stage within the BRICS community that is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. We're all part of the BRICS community, which also seeks to establish its own cooperation like all the other groupings that we find in the country. But let me tell you that Minister Nathi Mthethwa, he is our Minister of Arts and Culture. He was presiding over today's proceedings, but he will tell us more about what exactly we mean by people-to-people exchange. Minister, thank you very much for making time to speak to us. What exactly do we mean by people-to-people exchanges? Do we take people in South Africa, put them in China, and vice versa?
Well, thank you. Thanks to your viewers as well. It's quite an important platform. As you had witnessed earlier on, it's the first of its kind. Mainly, we've had, and we still do have, different platforms where we interact with different countries, and China in particular. We meet as BRICS member countries, we meet at the level of G20 and so on. What is different with this partnership is that the emphasis should go beyond leadership, should go beyond states and government, should actually involve people at the grassroots level. South Africa's interest in this relationship is mainly premised in the human capital development and research and development, because we believe that if we are to prosper, if we are to have a developmental trajectory which is going to be beneficial to the people, we need to do that in a much more scientific way, which is calculated, which will ensure that the kinds of skills which are needed by our economy today are attained by our people. Oh yes, there would be exchange of people. There would be young people who would be going to China for training, as I say, for human development investment. But also, we want to understand the kind of developmental trajectory we're talking about. That trajectory is anchored on the necessary tools for today. And you cannot do anything outside of innovation, outside of proper data through research and development. And that's what we'll be doing. Practically, there would be a science park between the two countries, and that would be an exchange. We would be cooperating so much on health and generally, both between ourselves but also globally, on culture. There we are talking of practical programs, because we are saying at the center of this interaction has to be people. You would have witnessed when we started here, young people making their own testimony, giving their testimony about the practical situation. It's important that we strengthen our relations with China. China is the second biggest economy in the world. In fact, all the estimations point to the fact that very soon it may overtake number one economy in the world, which is US. So it's quite important to deepen our friendship with them, and this is what we are doing for the benefit of the people of South Africa.
Will we see this kind of friendship deepening amongst other partners of BRICS, your Russia and your India and Brazil? Do we have plans as South Africa to deepen relations with them to see the same kind of exchanges and cooperation between the other countries?
Well, yes. Perhaps let me start by talking about this one, the people-to-people exchange mechanism. That China has 5 partners in the world. Russia is one of them, Indonesia and so on, and South Africa. From the point of view of Africa, is the first country where there is this partnership with China. But you would know that there are bilateral relations we have within the BRICS member countries as South Africa. And as a matter of fact, part of what this mechanism would be achieving is what we call cultural diplomacy, again, which is about people, which is about sharing our different worldviews as different countries, exchanging programs to understand each other more from the cultural point of view, because everything, whether talking trade diplomacy generally, but everything starts with culture. You start by talking, you start language and so on. So all that is being pursued with other BRICS member countries. But I must say that this one in particular is at a strategic comprehensive level. Okay. And that's the highest program, as you have heard people referring to high-level cooperation. It's at the pinnacle of both countries' relationships, because the emphasis is more of implementing what you would have agreed on.
Perhaps at a very, very simplistic level, Minister, what would your department benefit from a partnership such as this?
Well, let me start by saying that as you see the PPEM coming together, my role here really is not the Minister of Arts and Culture. My role is the co-chair of the mechanism itself, and Vice Premier Liu, from the point of view of China, is my co-chairperson. So we look at broadly all the aspects of our endeavors, of human endeavors. From a cultural point of view, we are pursuing what China has been pursuing with us for a number of years now, the cultural center. They are advanced in terms of their preparations in the country, and this is what we'll be looking into going forward, where you'll be having a one-stop shop for cultural development for both countries, for the real exchange of culture, heritage for both countries, so that the people of China and people of South Africa benefit out of that. But also, as you saw, that our core approach has to do with the human capital development and research and development. That research and development, the R&D program, encapsulate all aspects of life. It will deal with culture, it will deal with science and technology, with health, with matters related to youth and so on and so forth. So basically, we are sharpening the instruments we have from both sides to be much more practical and beneficial for both peoples.
Understood. Minister, this is a 3-day meeting. It ends on Wednesday. Won't you just give us an overview of what we can expect for the next 3 days of this high-level meeting?
Well, from here, as we have launched it, there's going to be a very close cooperation and program between the delegation of China in Health Ministry and South Africa. Later on would be on the side of science and technology, but generally would also be at the level of cultural exchange. Practically now, what we have on both sides, there would be part and parcel of thought leaders, of youth. There would be programs which would be, working with us in celebrating our Freedom Day, which is in 3 days' time from now, and so on. So there's going to be a whole host of programs which would be reciprocated when we have the second mechanism meeting, the people-to-people exchange mechanism meeting in Beijing, in China next year. And the significance of that is that they will be concluding a 20-year diplomatic relations between the two countries. So it's going to be significant in that sense. We will also do the same when we are that side. But as they are here, there is a whole host of programs. Remember that this is happening on the footsteps of China-South Africa seasons, where we had Chinese practitioners of heritage, of culture, of arts in South Africa for a whole year last year, going around the country, sharing and exchanging their culture, which was preceded by the South Africa year in China, where we had people from from heritage, from culture in China. So those kinds of very practical knowing each other by the peoples of both countries is what is going to be emphasized going forward.
Minister, I must thank you very much for your time. I look forward to attending the rest of the sessions here. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
That was Minister Nathi Mthethwa. He is our Minister of Arts and Culture. He is presiding over this high-level people-to-people exchange, it's called high-level people-to-people exchange mechanism. An example of exactly what he was talking about. You will be able to hear me speak to a beneficiary of something like this. His name is Skemo Busielo. He studied in China, in the University of China. He studied his master's there, and he will be sharing with us his experiences in China as a South African, everything that he learned, what we can, if you are on your way to China, what you can look out for. That will be happening at 1:30 right here on Channel 44 on SABC. We will be speaking to him, and we'll try to find other delegates for you to find out their experiences, Chinese delegates, in fact, to find their experiences of South Africa, what they make of cultural expertise, our health sector here, communications. And might I add that we do have a number of ministers who are in attendance. That is inclusive of the Minister of Communications, the new Minister of Tourism, the Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, and the Minister of Education, and the Minister Maitengwana Mashabane, who's the Minister of International Relations here in South Africa. But like I said, we will have more of this for you during our next bulletin at 1 o'clock on Channel 404.
Thank you so much, Diabosito, live from Pretoria.